Hi, it's Jessi. Today I am kind of starting an interesting, different reading vlog, or at least different for me. I'm sure other people have done very similar things to this before. Backstory, and then I'll jump into what I'm actually doing. Recently, the Nebula nominations came out, and I was like, maybe I'll read the Nebula nominees. And then I started looking at them, and I even started putting holds on Libby, but none of the books were ones that had really gotten me excited to try. I am currently reading Piranesi, which is one of them, but the other two that I had gotten immediately that were on that list were The City We Became by N.K. Jemisin, which I love N.K. Jemisin, but that book in particular doesn't interest me because I'm just not a city person. And I just didn't think I would connect with that. That's something I might still try down the line, but it's not really my thing. And Mexican Gothic, which Gothic horror also isn't really a genre that I have had a lot of success with in the past, so it's also not something I was super excited about. So I was thinking of doing that, but it wasn't getting me excited. But then a friend of mine watched my January-February wrap-up, in which I kind of talked about how I wanted more queer sci-fi fantasy recommendations to read, and they posted in Rid's Discord server a link to the Lambda Literary Awards. So I had seen links to this going around, but hadn't really looked into it at all. But the Lambda Literary Alliance, Lambda Literary something, is a group that promotes queer fiction and queer writers, so LGBTQIA plus books and authors. But one thing they do is every year they do an awards thing where they have different categories of queer fiction, and they have, fiction, nonfiction, and one of them is LGBTQIA fantasy, sci-fi, and horror. Horror was added sometime in the early 2000s, but fantasy, sci-fi, and horror. And I was like, screw the nebulas, I'm doing this instead. So there are 5 books that were nominated for the 2021 awards, which is books that came out in 2020. One of them, Black Sun by Rebecca Roanhorse, is the only one that I knew already, and I actually have wanted to read it. I also think this was also on the nebulas because I already had a hold on it, so on Libby. So that's one that I'll be reading. It's also available on Scribd, so if the hold doesn't come in a reasonable time, I can jump over and read it on Scribd. The other 4 books on this list I had never heard of, so that gets me really excited about them. Unfortunately, I can't get a hold of all of them. So 2 of these, Everyone on the Moon is Essential Personnel by Julian K. Yar. I'm going to assume that's a Yarbo. I should have looked up pronunciations. And The Silence of the Wilting Skin by Tloto Smaltsa. I'm going to sound like an idiot. Those 2 I can't get unless I buy them, and I'm currently trying not to buy books because it gives my partner some kind of anxiety when I buy books when I have so many unread books on my shelf. So I'm not buying any books for this, so those 2 unfortunately I can't read. The other 2 that I can get a hold of, The Order of the Pure Moon Reflected in Water by Zen Cho, is available on Libby immediately. I already have that, so that'll probably be the first one that I read. And the other one is Subcutanean by Aaron A. Reed, is a self-pub, and the audiobook is available as a podcast, so I can listen to that as well. However, that one is pretty interesting, so I haven't looked too much into what these books are about, but Subcutanean, because I was looking it up, is a book that's kind of written, every copy of the book is a little bit different because it's like this algorithmically created story, and that's so fascinating to me. So if I really, really like this audiobook, I might buy a copy because if it's the things that aren't going to change between editions, so the overall plot, the characters, the writing style, if I really enjoy those things, I want to own a copy of this because it's so unique and fascinating. So that's one that I might buy my own copy and reread it because it'll be a totally different book because it fascinates me. So 3 books seemed iffy on whether or not that's good enough for a vlog. So I started looking into previous year's nominations. Now, interesting to note is that sci-fi, fantasy, and horror have never won. They have been finalists in their category, but they have never won the Lambda Literary Awards. And I don't want to jump to conclusions, but if I were to speculate wildly about what this is, the more cynical, negative side of me, it would say that this is probably because sci-fi, fantasy, horror aren't considered as serious of genres. So literary awards, unless they're specifically geared towards those genres, might be less likely to award them because they are more fantastical, they're less serious, they don't necessarily have the optically ideal, I don't know what I'm saying, you know what I'm saying, that they don't seem like real literature. The more optimistic side of me probably guesses that an award that's specifically geared towards LGBTQIA plus fiction might prefer to choose books that focus on that element. So while these sci-fi fantasy books might include aspects of LGBTQIA culture or LGBTQIA identities, they might not focus on it as much as, say, a contemporary novel would. So that could be that from this awards perspective, the promotion of education about this, or what their purpose is, which is again something I'm going to look more into, might not fit that. So as I go through, I'm going to kind of explore that a little more and look and see if I can see why winners were chosen and what eliminated the ones that didn't win, and just kind of look into that. But I was looking at previous years, nominees or finalists in the sci-fi fantasy category, because I might add a couple more books onto it. Looking at last year's nominees, finalists in the sci-fi fantasy category, one of them is The Deep by River Solomon, which I have already read. It lives on my shelf here in the corner because I love it. But I've been reading, I'm gonna slide that out, why is that sitting so far back? I have been meaning to do a reread of this via audiobook, so I think this would be a perfect opportunity to slide that in there somewhere, is reread The Deep by River Solomon as an audiobook, because I'm sure it's fantastic. So that's one thing. The other one is Witchmark, which was a 2019 finalist by, C.L. Polk. I actually have as ebook because Tor's ebook club gave it out at one point. So I have that one. So those two might be added on. And then I started scrolling through more, and there's some books on this list that I already have read. So I think sometime in this vlog I will do a reaction to the finalists from previous years that I've already read. The only one that I know that I already saw was The Descent of Monsters, which is interesting because of all of the books in the Tensorate, The Descent of Monsters was my least favorite. This is unrelated, but there's an omnibus edition of the Tensorate coming out, and I pre-ordered it because I need to have it. Plus, I would really, really like to get these ones off my shelf because these have Neon's dead name on them, which I did not realize, and I want to formally apologize for every time I have dead named Neon Yang in my videos because I really wasn't aware of that. But I'd like to get these off my shelf and get their proper name shown and displayed. So I'm really excited about that. That should be on my shelf come September, and I'm psyched. Anyway, I will update you when I've started one of the books, and yeah, I'm really excited to read stuff that I just hadn't even been aware of, but clearly are well loved, respected in the LGBTQIA community. So, all right. Okay, I have 40-ish minutes before my class starts tonight. I'm gonna get started on The Order of the Pure Moon Reflected in Water by Zhen Shou. This is, the description says, the first time I'm looking at this, I have no idea what this is gonna be about. It says, Zhen Shou returns with the found family Wuxia. What does that mean? Oh, so it's a Wuxia, I don't know if I'm saying that right, is a genre of Chinese fiction concerning the adventures of martial artists in ancient China. I can't say I've read anything in this genre before. Anyway, fantasy. I have no idea what I'm getting myself into here, but I am excited to find out. So I'm gonna get started on this. That was a strong start. Alright, we're just gonna leave with the backlight. Okay, good morning. So I am halfway through the Order of the Full Moon, something about water. Reflected in water? Order of the, yeah, that one. Well, actually, I'm a little past halfway. I kind of got a little carried away last night and went a little far, but that's okay. It's so witty. There's like just a tone to it that I'm really, really enjoying a lot. I definitely feel like I'm losing a lot of the details, and because this is so short, I might just like reread it almost immediately. Cause there's just a lot being lost in, just everything. Part of it is the names are very confusing for me, but they're good. So this band of bandits, we've got 4 of them. One that joined just because he was in love with one of the other guys, which is a mood, and I want his story. One of them wanted to be like, go into like the priesthood or whatever, but like knew he couldn't make money as a monk, so he's like, I have to support my mom. But he's like super interested in religion. They have this book that they read about this kid, and it's so cute. One of the characters is trans, which is fascinating. There's been some discussion of this gender exploration, which is why I kind of want to go back and listen to the last couple chapters, because that's where they were talking about it. So I'm really enjoying the book. I just am losing a lot of the details of the plot, which is fine, but I do think I'm going to reread this at some point, if not during this vlog, then some point later. But super into it. I'm loving it. Yeah, and I'm just, there's been a couple little twists, like around the halfway point, there's been a couple little twists that have been fascinating to hear. And it really, the plot thickens kind of moments. And I'm really excited to see where it goes from here, because it really feels like now we've settled into what the real story is. So the second half of this should be really interesting, and I'm excited for it. All right, so what I decided to do for the order of the Pure Moon reflected on water, that's the verb there, was just, I basically got the ebook too, and I skimmed through the ebook to where I was just so I could get caught up, and I took notes on all the characters, because the issue I was having with the names is that all of the people in the order have like the prefix "a", and it's not something I'm super familiar with, so I was getting really confused. So now I've got like a nice little map of like who's who, and that has helped so much, and now I'm less confused. So that's good. I've got 8 minutes till my battery dies, and there's 2 dogs outside having a fight, so we'll see what we can do. I cut that last clip a little short because after like those first few, there wasn't anything else I recognized. So I did end up looking at the list of previous finalists in the sci-fi fantasy category and horror for the Lambda Literary Awards. And there wasn't actually that many that I knew, and even fewer that I had already read. So I'm gonna leave a link below if there's any in the description. Actually, I'll leave it in the pinned comment. And if there's anything on that list you think I should check out, because like you've read it and you love it and you think I would love it, go ahead and give me reasons to read them in the comments, because some of them looked interesting, like the titles anyway were interesting, but like not a lot of them were ones I've heard of. And there were a couple there that I have heard of but not super interested in. So just let me know below if you think I should read some of them. Anyway, I did finish the order of the Pure Moon Reflected on Water, Pale Moon Reflected in Water. Gosh, I'm really bad at book titles. Anyway, and I enjoyed it. It's not a book, Pure Moon Reflected in Water. It's not a book that's going to stick with me. I honestly think a week from now, I'll probably not be able to tell you much about it. But I did like it. I thought it was good. I think there was a really cute found family element that I enjoyed, which was good. I thought the character interactions were by far the best part of this. I thought they were just like absolutely delightful. The way they interacted with each other and the way you could tell how they cared about each other was just the best part of this book. But beyond that, I don't know. I enjoyed it. The prose was the other thing, and I'm gonna see what else Zen Show has written, because the prose was absolutely beautiful. It had me laughing so much, which is rare for books. So I'm definitely gonna check out more from the author, but it was cute. It was nice. It wasn't anything that's really gonna leave an impact. One thing that I don't really know how to talk about from my perspective, but I looked through reviews like I normally do, and one of them pointed out that the trans mask character was maybe not handled the best. The fact that they're trans was kind of a gotcha plot twist moment, which I did feel uneasy about. There are other complaints, though I'm not sure I actually believe, aren't necessarily ones that I can speak to. I didn't feel uncomfortable with it, but I'm not part of that community enough to be able to speak on it. So that's something I'm going to look myself to see if I can find some more Own Voices reviews or learn more about the author to see if maybe this is something they've talked about already. Because I am curious to see to hear more about that, but it's not something I have a lot to say about, just something to be aware of, that there is that gotcha plot twist about a character being trans, which might be uncomfortable, and that the language used around it is maybe not the best. My camera's flashing, so I have to go. I might talk about this a little more in the next clip, but I'll let you know when I'm reading the next book. Alright, so the next book on my list for the Lambda nominations is going to be Black Sun by Rebecca Rowanhorse. I am like 5 chapters into this and I have no idea what is happening. So this is actually, I ended up buddy reading it, or starting to buddy read it with my friend Josh. I suggested it to him. It's something I was interested in reading and he said it sounded good. So now we're reading it together, which is, I think, kind of a weird choice for a vlog, but it's fine. And yeah, I am so confused, and doing it as an audiobook is going to be tricky. I do have the ebook as well, so I might kind of switch between them or review the ebook when necessary if I get too confused. There's like a cast of character lists, which is so helpful, because right now I have no idea what's happening. But I like the vibe of it. There's a really cool atmosphere to it that I'm really enjoying. The first chapter, or was it the prologue or whatever, was so cool. I'm just a little confused by it. So I will let you know where I'm at, or what I think, about halfway through. I'll give you an update, but so far I'm liking it. I just am confused. Let me look, if I go to the description of Black Sun, what it's actually about. So Black Sun says, a god will return when the earth and sky converge under the black sun. Interesting. Okay, I kind of wish I hadn't read that because there was some information there that I don't think I had revealed yet. But so it's following, I think, primarily 2 characters, which is the ship captain who I've met, who is, I mean, I like her, but like her in a problematic fave kind of way. Like, she's an alcoholic, I think. Our introduction to her, yeah, anyway, I'm not going to give any kind of spoilers, at least not at this moment. And then the other person that has, I think the other perspective is this priestess, which I don't know how their plots are gonna converge at all. And then of course we have a young man who's I don't know, I feel kind of sorry for him, but based on that description, maybe he's being set up as the villain, and maybe there's a redemption in store for him. I don't know, I have no idea, but I am certainly intrigued, so I will get back to you when I'm about halfway through. All right, at this point I am around halfway through Black Sun. I actually don't know exactly where I am because Crypt is terrible about showing progression. Let me see if it'll tell me. Yeah, it looks like I'm at about halfway. Maybe a little bit more than halfway. I don't know, somewhere around that way. This book is so weird and so interesting, and I love it, I do have a better grasp on what's kind of going on, although it's two distinct storylines, and I'm not sure when they're going to interact with each other just yet. But there's 4 characters that are like the main characters. We have Serapio, who is, mark this so I don't forget where I'm at. I did end up getting the ebook to read alongside with the audiobook, and that's helping a lot with my understanding because things are just a little bit crazy, which is good, and that's helped a lot. So our 4 perspective characters, we have Serapio, who is I actually don't know how old he is. I keep thinking of him as like not a child, but as like a teenager, and I think he's older than that. I'm hoping he's a solid adult, like 20-something adult, but I keep thinking of him as a kid, and I don't know why, but he is the one who is possibly a resurrected god or something. But yeah, he's interesting. He's just so innocent and naive sometimes, which I think is why I think of him as a kid. And that's just because of his upbringing. Like, he was like isolated and things, and he's such a fascinating character. And we keep getting flashbacks to like his upbringing, and they're just heartbreaking in like the same way that like getting the Demaya chapters in 5th season was like, it's just hurts to see a kid raised that way. Next we have Giala, who is the sailor. She's not as much of an alcoholic as her first perspective made her seem, but she's the kind of character that, if I'm being entirely honest with you, I would despise if she was a man. And I know that's a terrible double standard to have, but she's just like, no, I don't know about that, actually. She's like Matt Cawthon-esque, but better. Because she's kind of got that, like, she's a player, she likes to fool around, but she's also got so much responsibility and, like, takes account for the responsibility she has. And I'm fascinated by her teak abilities because there's just something there. It's very mermaid-esque, and I'm loving that. Then we have, I definitely should know how to pronounce this considering I'm doing the audiobooks, but Narampa, I think I said that right. Narampa, she's like a priest. She's dealing with some political stuff, specifically political religious stuff, which is not my most exciting, interesting perspective or storyline, but she makes it interesting, and there's some really fascinating character dynamics and relationship dynamics that she's dealing with that I really enjoy. And then our other character is Koa? Yeah, I think it's Koa is the other main character that we've only just started getting perspectives from him, and he's the son of the crow matron that dies at the beginning of the book. And it's just interesting, and there's this clearly, like, the religion is fascinating because it's like, the way I'm interpreting it is like one religion that has multiple gods, and some people worship some gods more than others. So what it seems like. And then there's there's the different factions of the religion. You have the, the carrion crows, you have what are the other ones? There's sun priests or whatever, and they seem to be in charge of it. There's water striders. Yeah. So there's these different, like, factions within the religion. And then there seems to be this specific sect of carrion crows that are a little more culty. So I think the main conflict here is between those religions. And it's so interesting, but there's, like, no plot. Like, there isn't a conflict. I mean, so they're each dealing with different things. So, like, Narampa's trying to figure out how to restore order and, like, gain power and things, like, not like power in the, like, she's power greedy, but like trying to, like, restore the honor and power of her group and stay in control like she's supposed to be. You have Akoa is investigating the death of his mother, and Giala and Serapio are sailing across the sea dealing with stuff associated with that. So there is, like, story, there is conflict, but it's not an overarching story, which is something I normally hate. Like, I hated it. I didn't like it in the first law, the blade itself, I didn't like it in Way of Kings. It's normally not a story kind of thing that I like, but I think the fact that even though it's 4 characters, they're in 2 factions, and I can already see how they relate to each other, it's kind of making me okay with it. I'm really enjoying it. Maybe it also could be just that the characters grip me more, and so the fact that the plot is a little looser doesn't bother me as much when the characters are making up for it. I'm not sure, but so far I'm really loving this, so I will update you when I finished with what my final thoughts are. I finished Black Sun last night. I meant to film this clip last night, and I'll insert a clip, a short one maybe, of me reading the end of it, because I looked super cute last night and I wanted to record while I looked cute. And when I didn't have crap in my hair, what the heck? I wanted to record this clip last night when I looked really cute, but I did record my reaction to the end of the book, so I'll insert a clip here. It's not that exciting because I kind of accidentally started recording after the climax and it was just falling action. But it's fun. I'll insert a little clip. Anyway, so the reason I didn't record was because immediately after I finished it, I needed to decompress for a few minutes. And then I had class. And then by the time I got done with class, I was like, ugh, I'm tired. And so it just didn't even happen. So it has been like a solid 20 hours, 22 hours since I finished this book. And I still feel like I need time to decompress because, oh boy, was that something. This was a really, really good book. I loved it. Since I've implemented my new rating system, nothing has gotten above like a 4.6. Maybe a couple things have gotten into 4.7s. I'm gonna skim through it right now. Let's see if I sort this. The highest rating, let's see, I guess Stone Sky got a pretty high rating. Oh no. Stone Sky got a pretty high rating. Dragon Republic, but nothing has gotten above, let's see, nothing has gotten high enough that I would put it above a 4.75 on Libby, or on Storygraph. This week has had 2 exceptions. So the one, it's fine. I'll link my wrap up when I talk about it in there. But Black Sun in my rating system got a 4.83. It is so good. Like, I was like going through and literally everything except the writing style, which was like good, but not like perfect. And the ending got a 10. And the ending honestly would have gotten a higher rating if I could have gone right into the second book. It was such a good book. I'm ranting, I'm not saying anything coherent because I just loved it. I loved the characters. I loved the dynamics each of them had. The plot was a little less... No, it wasn't even like weak on the plot. Like, it's definitely more character than plot driven, but there is a plot, there is a story. You know what they're working towards the entire time. The climax was fantastic, and then it leaves you on this horrible cliffhanger, and I'm really mad that I'm gonna have to wait a year and a half, less than a year. I think it comes out in March of 2022. So, like, a year to read the sequel. I just really, really love this book. Definitely gonna be on my favorites for 2020. Might make it onto my favorites of all time. If the rest of the series continues on this very well might become my favorite series. I loved it. I want to read more Rebecca Roanhorse now. I've heard really good things about Trail of Lightning, so I might have to give that a shot. I think I have Trail of Lightning as an ebook. So it was fantastic. If for any reason you are hesitating on reading this, I would recommend it. The caveat there, and I will make sure I have trigger warnings for all of the books in the description, but my one caveat would be that it's hard. It's very violent, very gruesome, very just harsh. It's not even that violent, actually. There are moments of like intense violence, but the book itself isn't that violent. It's not like you're gonna get Game of Thrones level of like shock and violence and gore, but it's just dark. So I'll include trigger warnings in that, or if you go check on Storygraph, you can see community trigger warnings. But I would look into that, because if that's something that might be if that's something of concern for you, I would look into it, because it might not be for you because of that reason. But unless there is that reason, everybody should read this book. It is fantastic. Oh, I don't have Trail of Lightning. I have Too Like the Lightning. Dang it. Anyway, I'm in love with it. Serapio, I would literally die for him. It wouldn't even take, and Giala'd be a second behind. Like, it's so good. Anyway, I will start Subcutanean soon. It is. Maybe it's on Spotify. I'm hoping it's on Spotify because that'll make life easier. Although it's going to mess up all of my Spotify dynamics, just like Descendant of the Crane did last year, won't it, if I listen to it on Spotify? In any case, Subcutanean, I will read that and see what I think. I'm hoping I like it because I really want to buy a copy because I think it's fascinating. I don't even know what it's really about. Let's see what it is. College friends Nico and Orion find a secret basement underneath their house where Orion sees an impossible shadowy figure at the end of a long dark hallway. I think it's like an alternate dimension, alternate reality thing. It's sci-fi. This is specific. It describes it as a queer horror novel. I don't know if the plot's going to be the thing that brings you into this. I think it might end up being more about the gimmick, which is what I'm really, really hoping it isn't. But if I like the writing style, if I liked the characters, I really do want to own a copy of this because I think it's really cool. Speaking of which, I'm going to put Black Sun on my Amazon wish list. Yeah. Anyway, I will update you when I'm like halfway through that. I don't know when exactly I'm going to get started on it, but probably soon. And I will update you when I finish it. Or when I'm halfway through and I have some thoughts. Okay, this has been a mess, but I'm still reeling from Black Sun. It was just that good. Okay. Okay, so, I know I said I was gonna start reading Subcutanean. But, well, honestly, it scares me a little. And so I've decided I'm gonna read The Deep by River Solomon. Because it's just, I'm kind of in the mood for it. I'm just in the mood for something really short. Something I know I'm gonna love. I've had some really, really great reading experiences lately, and I just kind of want to keep that vibe going. And Subcutanean scares me a little. So, I'm gonna read The Deep by River Solomon, which was a 2020 nominee. And just enjoy it, because I really want to do the audiobook for that. So that's what I'm gonna get started on. Okay, it is. When was the last time I updated you? When I finished rereading The Deep. I'm just gonna talk with you about what I've been reading since then related to this while I work on portioning out my tea, because I've realized lately that I've only been drinking tea that's already in tea bags, which is fine, except I don't have that many that are caffeinated, so had the idea this morning to pre-portion some of my tea so that maybe, just maybe, I will drink some of these delicious teas that I have that are only loose leaf. Anyway, unrelated to anything, books, but, you know, just kind of what's going on in my life. Anyway, before I get into Subcutanean, which I did finally start, I reread Black Tides of Heaven, which hasn't been up for a Lambda as far as I'm aware, but the third book in the series, Descent of Monsters, or the fourth one, Ascent to Godhood, one of them has. So I figure I can talk about it just because I always want a reason to talk about the Tensorette. So I'll make my own excuses. Anyway, but mostly I reread it. I did already want to reread the series at some point this year, but mostly I reread it because it was one of Leslie from Stuck on Arrakis's, her book club's picks for April, whatever month we're in. So that's why I read it. Anyway, I still love it. I actually kind of love it a lot more in retrospect, knowing where the series goes. It has made it even better. So, love it. Really recommend it. It's weird. You should know that going in. The pacing is whack, but I love it. So that's that one. Anyway, Subcutanean. I finally started Subcutanean, and I don't know what to say about it. Here's the thing. It's not the kind of book I think I would have ever picked up on my own. I might have picked it up out of curiosity because the, like, procedurally generated story thing is fascinating. Excuse me. Is certainly interesting, so I might have picked it up for that. But the plot isn't exactly the kind of story that I like. It's college kids exploring and finding some kind of alternate reality. And that's all fine and dandy. Nothing against that. Just not really my thing. And that's kind of how I feel so far. It feels a little YA. Now, it's certainly upper end of YA, but it feels a little YA. And it's giving me flashbacks. It would definitely be distinctly in that new adult category. Like, if the new adult age range was used for anything other than smut, it would be in that. Because it's got a lot of the vibes of, like, specific college experiences. And don't get me wrong, it's a good portrayal of college experiences. Just not the side of college I want to remember. The other thing I will say, though, is it's set, I'm not entirely sure when it's set, but it keeps making these unnecessary references to how technology has changed. Like, it'll talk about, like, well, this was before, you know, oh, no, not before cell phones. This must be, like, early 2000s, because it made a reference specifically to having to, oh, it would have taken him so long to type out a message to her using his old flip phone when he had to press the key. And it's like, I don't know, it's got a very specific vibe of, like, hey, remember when millennialism, that I'm not sure I'm liking. And then the queerness aspect, again, that's one, I don't know, there's something about it that's simultaneously very relatable to me and also simultaneously very, upsetting to read, wherein this is like a gay man who has just no interest being at all connected to the queer community. And it's, I don't know, something about it isn't setting right with me, so it's like, there's some stuff, and I think there could be a really interesting criticism here of the gay community being so specific to a certain type, especially in the time period this is taking place in. Like, I know it's gotten better since then, but like, he doesn't want to go to a gay bar or a club. And that's like fair, and I realize that that is like a valid criticism of the queer community. But then he also like doesn't have any interest in joining the LGBTQ club on his campus. And things like that, which is like fair. Anyway, so I don't know, there's just a vibe that's not sitting right with me. Just like the style I'm not enjoying, which is a shame because I was hoping I would like the style, because I would have loved to have bought this because it's just such a cool concept. But we'll see how it goes. I've just finished chapter 4, so I'm not even that far into it. I'm maybe like a quarter of the way in, not even. So I'll update you when I'm closer to like halfway done. This was already a rather long update and not at all what I intended to do. But I will definitely update you when I'm a little bit further in and see if that's changed, because things are just starting to get to like the interesting stuff. Like up until now, it's been them exploring this basement, capital B basement. And now they've just gotten to the point where like the alternate reality thing is setting in. And I'm just not sure on it, you know? I'm just not sure yet, but I'll let you know when I'm a little bit further in, okay? Okay, I finished Subcutanean. I don't know why I'm filming this laying down. I just felt like being comfortable. Anyway, so I don't know how much of the last clip I'm gonna keep in because I kind of went a little off the rails. So when I updated first, I meant to update halfway through and it never happened, but when I updated like a quarter of the way, a third of the way through, I didn't like the author's writing style, I didn't like the main character, and that never changed, but the plot at least got a little more interesting by the end of it. The writing style had that kind of, it was just boring. Like, there was nothing interesting about the style, and the way the author kept reminding us, like, hey, this thing you have in modern times wasn't available for the main character. I mean, it's written in first person, so it's like the character telling us that, so whether that goes under my opinions on the character or my opinions on the author is really, I don't know, but, yeah, just, like, overly repetitive, being like, hey, you know, cell phones weren't a thing yet, hey, this common pop culture reference wasn't available. It was like, why even bring it up? Just like, especially because it didn't add anything having it set in that particular time period. Like, it didn't, I think it's early 2000s, like around the aughts. So I don't think it added anything by being set in that time period. So, like, to overemphasize that it's set in this specific time period just didn't make any sense to me. And then my problems with the main character never really improved. They were just kind of there. He wasn't likable, but he wasn't even interesting. Like, he was bland, but unlikable. I didn't like his weird obsession with his best friend. I didn't like the character. So of course then I didn't really care about him at all when he got into these situations, but the setting was actually really fascinating. So it's this whole, like, they live in an apartment where the bed is like, or they have a house they're renting because whatever. And his bed is like raised up, and they're like, that looks like there's got to be storage space when they're there, and they finally get it open. And there's these stairs into the secret basement, and then that becomes like this weird tunnel, and then you get into alternate reality stuff. But the, like, setting of the basement, of the downstairs, was really cool. Sorry for the key bashing. I should close that door, but I'm not going to. It was really cool. I really liked that part. But that was really all it had going for it, was that. Plus, like, both the main character and his best friend had this, like, mysterious backstory element to them that never got explained. It's, like, vaguely hinted at. We finally find out the main character's father has passed away, but, like, it never talks about when that happened. And I think that's one of those ones where it's, like, the procedural generation thing, because, like, his father's not in his life. Maybe there's a different pathway where his father left and things like that. And so maybe that's why it's vague on the details, is so that, like, those details can change from story to story, which might be a fault of this unique, cool thing the author was trying to do. I don't know. Overall, though, he's playing Hades. If you can hear that, that's what that is. Anyway, overall, though, it was a fine book, wasn't anything particularly spectacular, which is upsetting. I was really hoping to like it enough to justify buying a copy to own. Like, I didn't even have to give it 5 stars. Normally, I only buy books that are, like, 5 stars or, like, really, really close to it in my new system, like 4.5 or higher. Like, I love this book, I'm going to reread it, I'm going to recommend it to all my friends. It didn't even have to be that good. It just had to be good enough that I would want to read it a second time to see the difference. And I didn't like it enough for that, which is a shame, because I would have liked to have read it again and seen how it changed. But maybe if I ever see it at a used bookstore or at a library or something, I will take advantage of that and see what a different version of the story might be. That said, that's really all I had to read for this. Now, I know I talked about reading some of the backlist ones, and I did read The Deep again. So I might do that still in this vlog. It's still early May. I don't want to post this, so I want to have this. I want to be able to react to the Lambda Awards, which is on June 1st, and I actually might sign up to watch it live. I haven't decided yet. But so this isn't going to go up until like mid-June probably, which means I have time to read more. So I'm going to check on the other 2 nominees that I haven't gotten to read, see if maybe they're available now, because it's been like a couple months, maybe they've become available. And then I guess I'll look at some of the backlist titles and see if any of them appeal to me, and if so, I'll tack those on. I will give my official rating before I watch the Lambda Awards of what order I think they should be in. I don't know how the Lambda Awards work. I think they just pick a winner, but we'll see. So that's where this is at now. I'll update you the next time I read a book. Hey, we're about halfway through May. To, I I guess 2 things. I have started reading 2 books that were Lambda nominations at one point or another. I will say I got super discouraged looking for a lot of the books, the Lambda nominees, not just current ones, not just like the 2020 releases, which are new releases, so sometimes accessibility is less there. But even looking through like a lot of the older releases, I looked through the fantasy nominations. For 2020, I looked through fantasy, graphic novel, a lot of the anthologies, some of the other sections, and like the availability of the books was like non-existent. I have 2 different library cards with Libby, and they're not small libraries by any means. They're like huge library systems, and they didn't have like any of them. And then I have Scribd as well, and Scribd even had pretty limited access to the new releases. A little bit better for the older ones, but it was still pretty slim, and I got pretty discouraged by that. But anyway, jumping back on it, I have started reading 2 books. So one is a 2020 anthology that was nominated for this year, and it's Love After the End. Maybe if I just, nope, wrong thing. Opened it up, I could tell you. Love After the End, an anthology of two-spirit and interqueer speculative fiction. This is all like queer sci-fi short stories by First Nations or Indigenous people. And I'm really loving it. It's not my... No, honestly, like for as far as anthologies go, short stories go, it's hitting pretty hard. I've been like rating each story as I go, and I'm not going to talk too much about them now. I think when I finish reading, I'll come back and I'll tell you my top 3 out of the collection. But so far, I mean, the lowest I've given a single story is 3 stars. Like, it's really enjoyable. I like a lot of the author's writing styles. I love the themes. It's a lot of themes of like family and unity and cultural identity, and also like preserving your culture when terrible things are happening. So really enjoying that one. And then the other book that I am reading is an older one. This isn't a new release, this is one, but it's In Excess Mail by Maggie Shen King. And this is about it's like a theoretical consequences of China's one-child policy, because the idea was that like during that time, a lot of parents were specifically trying to have male children because of cultural things, lineages, male children being preferred. And this is like the possible consequences of that is that down the road, there are not enough husbands or there are not enough wives for the number of husbands. And so the idea would be that like later on, needs to be something to correct for that. The fact that like to have children, you need to have, you know, and so this is a society in China where wives often have 2 husbands, and I think recently there's just been a law passed that allows them to have 3 husbands. And this is the story of a woman with her 2 husbands and this 3rd man that would like to marry into the relationship. I am like barely into it, like 3 hours into it, and I'm not loving it. I'm not giving up on it, but I'm not loving it. I think there is some of the struggles are really hard for me to relate to, which isn't really a problem, but it's like the way it's being presented isn't like, it's coming across to me as whiny, which I don't want to say because that's really rude, but like that's how it feels. And there's also just a lot of sexual content, which I feel like I should have expected based on the premise, but I didn't. But that's where I'm at right now, and I'm maybe like a 5th of the way into it. Yeah, actually almost exactly a 5th of the way into it. So I'll update you about that a little bit further, and I'm almost done with Love After the End. I think I have 1, maybe 2 more stories to read in that, so I will update you on that soon. Okay, updates as we near the end of the month, because it's been a week. Okay, I ended up DNFing in Excess Mail. It just wasn't doing it for me. I don't know, it just wasn't. I've got nothing more to say about it than that. I'm sure it's wonderful. It wasn't really working for me. I don't know, the characters weren't interesting to me. The story kind of fell flat. I think this like, I don't know if the author was going for like a gender reversal where like, it seemed like that's what they were going for, where like now men have to compete for women instead of women competing for men, but like it kind of fell flat when the things women were doing still weren't valued. Like, they were literally still there to make children and take care of the children. Which is just, I don't know, I feel like there were some things there where, like, this society you've set up didn't go where I thought it would. As far as Love After the End goes, I really liked it in the end. I think when I averaged out the ratings I gave all the stories, it came out to like a 4.25 out of 5, which is really good for a short story collection, because generally things bring that down a lot more. There's a bigger range, but these I all gave from 3 to 5 stars, the stories, and most of them were closer to that 4 to 5 range. So like, I really enjoyed it. So some of my favorites, so there were 2 I gave 5 stars. One was How to Survive the Apocalypse for Native Girls by Kai Minoche Pyle. This one was just like very gripping. It's told in this like almost diary entry style, almost but not quite, where we're like getting this girl's story, but it's through like these little vignettes of like, here's a thing I've learned, this is how I learned it, and it was really interesting. So I really liked it, and then like the tone really just was well done, and you really connected with the main characters through these stories, because it was like her telling her story, not just like a first person narrator, but like it was her telling her story. So I really felt connected. And then the other 5 story was the one immediately after that, which, no, I'm not going to try to pronounce that. Let's see if Google can help me. I'm not optimistic. Okay, yeah, I can't find anything for how to pronounce it. But the story that was by Gabriel Calderon, this one was just really, really beautiful. So it's about this storyteller, that there's this future where when you learn a story, it's like marked on your skin, and they are highly persecuted, and then it's her story of like creating the next generation of storytellers, and it was just really, really, really beautiful. From there though, I don't know, I'm having trouble picking like a third favorite. So I had 1, 2, 3 4.5 star ones. So the first story, Abacus by Nathan Adler, Story for a Bottle by Darcy Littlebadger, and Eloise by David A. Robertson were all 4.5 star stories for me. I don't know, I feel like Abacus I loved a lot more just because I was coming off of Long Way to a Small Angry Planet, and so I was just primed for that kind of story. I don't know if I would have liked it that much if I wasn't coming off of that. So I think out of these, I think Eloise was probably my favorite. And this is a story about a world in which there's this totally immersive VR world where you can go into it, and a minute is a day, and an hour is, or it's less than that, it's like a second is a day, a minute is a month, an hour is a year kind of thing. And you can live like thousands of years and just chill. And the story is about this one woman who had a coffee shop date with another girl, and the girl never called her, and she hasn't stopped thinking about her. So the premise there of like, I met her once and we're madly in love, didn't quite jive with me. Like, I don't know about that. But once it got past that like initial premise of like desperately in love with somebody I met once, I really, really enjoyed it. But overall, I really recommend this short story collection. It's really sweet. It definitely taught me some things I didn't know. I spent a lot of time Googling things I didn't know, which is great. Like it just was really, really amazing. I definitely enjoyed it. Now, as far as which one of the books I read I think might win. So obviously I didn't read 90% of the finalists. So of the finalists, the ones I've already read, I read Catherine House, but not for this. I don't foresee that one winning, just because, I don't know, maybe it's my general snobbery, but like I think it doesn't have as much of the literary merit. It's not as universal of a story. I don't think it would win. The Seep I also read. I did read during this vlog, just not intentionally read it for this. I just didn't like The Seep that much, so I don't really have a lot to say about that. Love After the End, which I think, I'm gonna look through the rest of them that I read, but I think of the ones I've read, Love After the End would be the one I would cue to win. I just think the intersectionality of it really appeals to several different facets of the LGBTQIA plus identities, but also like it deals with other forms of oppression. I think it has so many, the different stories mean that it has different messages that can appeal to different people. I think it has that deeper meaning of like finding success or finding happiness even when everything's terrible, which I think is a message that really appeals right now. So right now I think that would be my bet for winning based on the ones I've read, which again is not most of these. And I think after that, all the rest of them I read were in the sci-fi fantasy, which were Black Sun, The Word of the Pure Moon Reflected in Water, and Subcutanean. Now of these, I think Black Sun, so if I were to rank all of the books that I've read out of these lists, so it's those three, Love After the End, The Seep, and Catherine House. So if I were to rank those, I would put Love After the End at the top. So this is partially my enjoyment, partially how I think the general populace or the people maybe choosing these rewards would react to it. So Love After the End, Black Sun, for purely my enjoyment. Let me think. Probably Order of the Pale Moon Reflected in Water. I really enjoyed this one. I don't think it has as much of the literary potential, but I really enjoyed it. Then Catherine House, then The Seep, then Subcutanean, I think is the order I would put them in. All right, I will update you probably June 2nd or 3rd after I've watched the rewards, which I did buy a ticket to watch it live. We'll see if that happens or not. And then this will go up hopefully the second week of June. We'll see. Anyway, see you in a bit. Hi, so mistakes were made. I totally forgot about the Lambdas on Tuesday, so I didn't watch them live. You're crooked and you're just gonna have to live with that. Also, they're mowing the lawn. But this is the only time I have to film this clip. So, we're gonna do what we gotta do. Anyway, point being, I totally forgot to watch that. Just it didn't occur to me. I totally forgot. Whatever, it happens. But what I did get was an email with the results, and I'm sure I can watch the recording of the live even if I didn't get to watch live. I literally like checked my email at like 9 o'clock that night. I was like, oh yeah, I was gonna do that. Anyway, so I am going to look at my email from the Lambda announcing the 2021 Lammy Award winners. Okay, so, oh, there's some highlights from the ceremony. Anyway, I'm definitely, yeah, it seems like it's totally available to watch, so I will watch it later, and I'll even drop a link down below for you guys to watch if you haven't. So let's go to see the list of winners. On June 1st, 2021, we announced the 33rd Annual Awards. These winners were selected by a panel of over 60 literary professionals with far more than 1,000 book submissions from over 300 publishers. For lesbian fiction, I'm just going to scroll through these because there's only a couple I actually read. Gay fiction. So they do choose a winner from each category. See, clearly I missed out on some things. So I'm just gonna scroll through. If you're interested, you can pause and look. Look it up. I've heard somebody recommended Wow, No Thank You. Or somebody I watched. Maybe it was Cindy. It seems like a Cindy thing. So cute. Love After the End won for anthology, so I got it. I was on the right track. Yeah, it's an amazing. King and the Dragonflies, Books and Lala raves about. interesting. This wasn't even one of the graphic novels I've been thinking of reading, but it's very sci-fi, which I think is why it wasn't appealing to me. But oh, look, there's cats. Ooh, maybe I should check out some of the mysteries. One. Oh, Everyone on the Moon is a Central Personnel. I'm kind of upset because that was one I couldn't even get around to reading. So I guess that just adds that higher to my TBR for if I ever can read it. All right, let's just look and see what else. Oh, so there's not like an overall winner? Huh, I guess not. But there we go. Everyone on the Moon is a Central Personnel. Man, and I really wanted to read that one too. Well, that I guess is that. I don't know how to wrap this video up now. I guess thank you for watching. This is probably going to be a very long video. From what I've edited so far, which is all but like 2 or 3 clips, it's already like an hour. So if you made it to the end, thank you. Let me know if you've read any of the books, especially those winners, and let me know if I should pick them up if you're familiar with them. Also, you know, if you're looking through some of the previous years and there's something you think I should read, leave a comment below. And just in general, if you have recommendations for queer sci-fi fantasy, please. I am always in the mood for it. Definitely prefer things that are like not so much about being queer and are just the characters are queer. But either way, and I guess that's it from me. I will see you all next time. Happy Pride, y'all.